Hello, I'm John Liu, the Flow Ninja, and welcome to my channel. Today I have a recording on how to do left joins in Flow, and I will talk about several techniques. Some of them are faster, some of them are easier to build, but they are all good techniques. So if you ever have a scenario where you need to join, you have two lists of data, so maybe, and they may come from the same data source, or they may come from two different data sources. This is why we need to talk about, hey, how do you do a left join? I want to take, say for example, I have a list of companies and I have a list of contacts, and I just want to left join the two sets of data together. So let me jump right into the demo. I've actually built this a while ago. It was tweeted. I tweeted this on Twitter a while back that I worked out how to do this, and only until recently, several people have started asking me, John, how do you do a left join, or how do you do one quickly? Because in general, what you'll find if you try to build one is, oh, I need to loop over two big arrays, and whenever you do loop in Flow, things get slower. And if you have to loop over two large collections, it gets really quite slow. So these techniques we'll talk about how we can do joins quicker, what are the quickest ways and what are quicker ways, and so on. So I built this actually it's just a little bit over a week ago, but I have had trouble finding time to make this recording, so better late than never. Let's get right into it. And before I go very much further, let me quickly show you my two source lists. This is a fairly large flow. You will see it is, there are 4 branches. There are 5 branches. Each one is a method of doing a left join. We will come back to this, but let me quickly show you my list. I have a list of buddies. So this is a contact list of people. And in the contact list, I have one lookup to a company list. If I quickly show you, the company list is a lot smaller. Just 4 companies. Okay, so the lookup is actually done via the ID. So right, so that's a very simple lookup. And let's come over to our flow. Now, I will quickly run the flow just to show you that it works for all cases. My list of contacts actually has a lot of additional names. So I tried to make all the first names different just to show you they are different records. But basically I don't have that many friends, so I just copied them. Imaginary friends. Okay, so very quickly, just to zoom out, you'll see that some techniques are faster than others. You'll see the first one finish. So we see our first method that finishes pretty much in 0 time. Then we have our second method, which is actually one of the slowest, finishing at 33. This is actually also one of the easiest ones to build. This is why this is up first. Then we have much harder ones. That one clocking in at about 2 seconds. This is 0. This is 0. Okay, so you can do a left join of 2 lists fairly quickly, in a very small short time, in a very small period of time. And this is what this whole video is about. Now, very first method, let me go and hit edit and go right into it. The very first trick when you need to do a left join is you try to work out, can the source data support left join? In this case, the 2 source data is SharePoint, and we can support a left join by basically doing, let me zoom in. We can send a HTTP request to SharePoint, and here I want a list of my contacts, but I want to select the title. So the first name, the title in a context, title is the last name from a contacts list, first name. And then I want the company title, and to do a left join in all data, we do the expand with the entity name. So the expand is to expand the entity, the work company column, the lookup column, and the field we wanted to extract from the company list is their title. So doing that, no metadata, and then afterwards we could tidy it up. So we say the value is we do a select to tidy up. We say the value is the value output from the JSON. I want the company, which is the company title. When you see it, it's got item work company title, and then the first name, and then the last name being the title. And then to tidy it up, I just create HTML table. So if we run this, the left one runs really quick because the left join is performed on the server. Yeah, so that's done already. Let's have a quick look. You'll see all these names. So Flow Studio, John Liu, Microsoft, you have Brian Dan, you have Audrey, you have John LaFisk, you have Paul Comsey from 7 Sigma, and then it repeats. There's a whole bunch of repeats later. I have a lot of duplicated names. Okay, so that's really the left join. It's left joining the contact with the company name, bringing the company name with the contact. Okay, now when do you want to do this? Well, if your source data is from the same data source and it supports left join like SharePoint, in SQL you'll probably do it in a few anyway, or you can use the execute SQL. In CDS you can also do left join. Then you should totally do it in the source data source, like get SharePoint, get CDS, get SQL to help you. Don't do it in Flow. That's the quickest way. So you basically get back data into once you got the data back from your source data, it's already in the left join. You'll see because it's a left join, we select basically from the context, and then the company record, the title is brought in. So the JSON looks a bit. You may not be as familiar with the style of JSON, where it's saying the lookup is work company, that's a lookup, and the title is the field that we want from the company list. So we put that in. Okay, and then select just flattens that into a simple array, like so. Okay, so that's technique 1. Use all data when you have it. Let's look at technique 2. Technique 2 and 3 are similar. I will hide this. Techniques 2 and 3 are similar. Let me hide that too. Maybe drop that down just a size. And technique 2 requires a variable. So we're basically saying, okay, we want a variable to hold our results. Okay, and this is an array. And we want to say loop over. Okay, so for these next 4 methods, we deal with arrays. So because this, I basically call SharePoint twice to get the full list of 2 big arrays. So this is for this, and these 4 scenarios are for cases where you have 2 different data sources, or your data sources are not the same, or they don't support some sort of old data left join, or you just need to do it in Flow for some reason. Okay, so these 4 starts with having 2 lists of data. We have buddy, so our contact, and then we have company. So loop over each buddy, and this is the quickest way to do this. Filter your company. Okay, so within the apply to each, filter this rather than loop through all your company looking for someone. We can run a filter array with the ID of this ID. So it says item ID refers to this company. So the company ID is equal to the work company ID from this top. So doing this will filter the company, which is our left join table, down to just the one where the ID of the company here is equal to the work company of the contact list. And then again, I use a quick JSON. I use a quick compose to create JSON. The first name and last name are just retrieved from the body list, so from the top level. And then the company, what I'm doing is I use the first record of this filter, right? In this case, the company ID is a unique ID, so I'm ever only going to get one record or no record. So I use the expression first of this array, and then question mark title. So that will bring in that company title name, and then I append that to a variable. And then we can create a HTML table using this again. Okay, now this is one of the simpler methods to do. If you use the filter array here, you will reduce a lot of you will not have to do a second apply to each inside, which will really make this method slow. But even with all that, this method will still take a good 30 seconds on just a data set of about 100 rows. So it's not a quick method. And then I want to move on. So the third method is this one. The third method is very similar to the second method, except we use a technique that I call Peter's method. Peter method. I call it Peter method because Peter found out about it and made a blog post. I will link to the blog post. So basically inside of for each, we can say, so this is again running over the buddies list. We do the same filter on the company, and then we can just compose, right? So it's very similar to this compose here. Okay, it's very similar to this compose. But what Peter found out was that, hey, if I'm outside of the apply to each and I refer to this compose result, so compose level 3 from the outside, this magically creates an array of every possible compose of this apply to each. Okay, so yeah, so it's like saying let this be the array of every compose inside every apply to each. And then with this method, then we can run this in parallel. So turn on concurrency, 50 maximum parallelism. So we want to run 50 apply to each at the same time. And then we can create a table. So let's do that. One of the quickest ways to do apply to each and gather up your results without using an append to array. The append to variable array is slow. So you see this apply to each is already finished. The apply to each running in parallel are finished in 2 seconds. The Peter's method, which concatenates every compose back into a big array, completes in 0 seconds, and then we have our HTML table. Okay, and comparing that to this the simpler method where we're doing apply to each, do the filter and do the append, this one took 32 seconds. Okay, so these are the two. So if you have to use apply to each, do use this. Apply to each does slow down the bigger your array is. So this 2 seconds is for about 100 records. If you get to 1,000 records, you'll see this start to significantly slow down. Okay. Now 4 and 5. Let's do the last two. The fourth method requires a crazy use of. So firstly, I need to tidy up the company list. Okay, so what I have here is I'm selecting the company and I really just want the ID and the company name. And then I have to, so this fourth method uses XPath. So we're basically going to do this select. Let me show you. We're going to select from the buddies list the first name and last name, and then we're going to select the company from the first of this XPath expression. Okay, and we use the XPath expression because XPath give us a way to do this kind of inline lookup. So what we need to do first is we take all the company, which is this company ID and company. So we're basically creating ID company, like so. We're going to XML must have a top level root, just one, so it has to be like this. You can't have more than one top level root, just XML root. And then we use the XML method to turn this. So it's actually root, and then I did items, which is the collection sort of. Okay. So just imagine the XML, this thing by in XML. Okay. And then we come back to the XPath. The XPath says, firstly, do the XPath of this XML. Okay. And the path is root items, where the item attribute is equal to the work company ID. So that's from the buddy list, from the contact list, and then slash company. So rather than selecting the ID, we want to select the sibling company attribute and then get the text value. Okay, and because XPath of this formula returns a node set, so it returns one or more nodes that fits this query. We just want to take the first result. Okay, we do that. So that we can squeeze into this one line in here and then immediately come to our output. Okay, so this is an extremely fast method, works with hundreds and thousands of rows, and does it really quickly. A potential area that you may have to watch out for is if there are funny characters in your ID. So if your ID has funny characters, that may cause this attribute check to get complicated. You may have to escape your ID, maybe prefix it with hello or something. Okay, so if you prefix your ID here, say you put underscore, then just make sure in your expression to put the same underscore here. Okay, item equals to underscore whatever. Right, let's take that. We don't particularly need it here. Just okay. And so this one requires XPath wizardry to do this one, but it's very quick. So this is a technique that uses XPath to quickly locate and search for a row that you may have in your data set. Okay, you see it's done 0 seconds. It just runs really quickly. Quickly show you what the output looked like. That is the list of companies, so the 4 companies. The company with the root, so we put the root element. You have to have one root element over your XML, so that's what I did. Then convert the whole thing to XML. You'll see this is XML, root items, and then you have ID company 4 times. Okay, and then the XPath selects it. So we start from this buddy array, we end up with this. Okay, and the company name is done by this lookup. Now the fourth and final method. This fourth method needs more explanation. So the fourth method is actually the fastest method. It's faster than XML. Also, XML has potential issues if you have funny property names, so you need to make sure you escape them. The fourth method does not have that particular issue. But to explain this method requires us to build basically a JSON lookup dictionary on the spot. Okay, and the way we do this is first we take the companies. So again, the list of companies. Let me just give a bit more space. So we're gonna get ID company, yeah, something like this. Okay. And then we use this concatenation to basically say, hey, we want the string ID with the value of ID. And then, what is it? Let's pick this. Okay, so we end up wanting, basically we say, okay, for each string we want double string ID, double string ID with the ID value, like so. And then followed by the double quote, and then the title value, like so. Okay, so for each row we basically generate this. Okay, we'll have ID 1 and then the company ID 2, the company. And the reason we did this is we want to just prefix our ID numbers with some sort of text. Next, we concatenate this whole string together. So imagine you have something like this. You know, close to you. And then you have ID 2, let's say it's Microsoft. Then we want to combine this with a bracket in the front, a comma to join all. So for all of them, we want to concatenate them with a comma. What's that? Third one, SPG. And then add a curly brackets at the beginning and the end. And you can see that from this simple string array, we've generated a JSON string, right? This is a JSON string. We then convert this with the JSON method and turn that into an actual, so we're basically composing a JSON dictionary on the spot. Okay, and once you have done this, we can do the, again, the select, very similar, select the first name, last name. And then for the company field, we're basically doing, this one is a complicated expression. Let's also pick that out. Let me put that up here. Okay, what we want is, we want the output. So compose 3 is this JSON. Okay, we want to do compose 3 and then do a lookup to one of the properties. So compose 3 lookup. And what is this value? Well, this value is the word ID plus the ID from the current buddy list, right? So that creates a string ID1 or ID5, and then we do a lookup, a property lookup on this object. So the JSON that we created become a dictionary that we can use for checking. And finally, that's just the map. So let's run that again just to wrap this up. And you'll see while the second and the third method are still running, the first one and then the fourth and fifth one, they finish almost immediately. Okay, so just to show you what happened at the end here, we took this array and we basically generated these 4 strings, right? And then we added the comma by doing a join, and then put the curly brackets in the front and the end and converted to JSON. So this becomes JSON object, see? And then in the select here, we can then perform the join to this JSON object and get us this. Sweet. Okay, so that is the JSON with the compose method. That is the fastest method. You do need to watch out that you cannot have 2 properties in compose with the same name. So the key, what you choose to be the key here, is critical. You must pick something that is unique. Because imagine if you have 2 properties here called ID4 and then another ID4, you cannot turn that into a JSON. This step here will fail because you cannot have 2 properties with the same name. Okay, so just bear that in mind. But in general, you can control that with ensuring that you are using the primary key from that data source. Okay, so 5 different ways to do lookups. This is a very technical method. I hope I zoomed in and made it bigger and tried to explain all the little steps, and this will be useful to you. So let me know how you use this method, and I'm sure you may have applied to each or even double applied to each, and now you're looking this and think, oh wow, if you're using double apply to each, it will run 10 minutes. So perhaps you just look at the level 2 method and say, well, I could turn that into 33 seconds. And maybe that's a major performance improvement you can already do. But go through all the different methods, and at the end, you are looking at being able to do a left join in 0 seconds. So it is this is a technique on how to do left join using Microsoft Flow or Power Automate. And subscribe to my channel and hit the like button and share this with your colleagues. And that's all for me for today. Bye.